what's up, chitheads? Welcome back to the channel. Today is a very special day indeed because this is the day we get to check out the brand new Kingstar bikes you see here from eCells. Now, this is a natural evolution of the 5-star e-bike that came out last year. So now there's the 5-star, the 5-star 2, and the cream of the crop being the Kingstar series. This is the single, and this one is the dual version. Single starts at a price of $22.95, and the dual goes for $27.95. But fear not. You can use yourself coupon code CHIT100 to save yourself $100 off your order. And as always, the price you see on the site is the price you pay. There's no shipping or tax added to that number. But anyways, guys, that's enough small talk. What do you say we go over all the improvements that were made to these bikes? Come on, let's get going. All right, guys, we're going to briefly go over the differences between the two models. But for the purposes of this video, I'm mostly going to be focusing on the dual version because you know what, guys? This one's the cream of the crop. Okay, for starters, the single comes with the RST front fork, and the dual comes with this bad boy KKE dual crown front fork. Now this is more like dirt bike levels of suspension. The dual obviously has the dual battery, rear rack battery being a 60 volt, 15 amp hour battery, and it has this upgraded headlight as well. So another thing that the dual version comes with, it comes with a 5 amp charger, which is really nice. But fear not, guys, if you buy the single version and you want to upgrade to a dual battery version, for only $349, you can get yourself a second battery for the rear rack. And it's very easy to bolt these onto these because all these bikes come with the same rear rack. So all you have to do is get a slide kit for the battery to slide onto, and there's a cable that plugs it right into the frame. It could be really easy. Before we start focusing on that dual Kingstar, I want to just point out, guys, this blue on gold wheels has to be the best looking e-bike that I have. This is just a really nice looking bike. It's been sitting in my living room, and every day when I come home, I walk by it and I stop and look at it and I'm like, man, that is just a really nice looking bike. I really, really like this blue and gold combination. Really sharp looking bike. And here's what I was talking about with the rear rack. You order a slide kit with your battery. You bolt that in here. The battery slides in the back. And there's a cable, and the cable just goes right down here to the kit, to the port, and there you go. You have your second battery. Very simple installation for a dual battery kit on these bikes. Unfortunately, you still do miss out on that new front fork, but this RST guide is the first fork I would consider to be acceptable. This is a decent fork. And here's the front headlight that comes on the single version. We were riding the other night at nighttime, and this light is actually surprisingly bright. So I was actually okay with the brightness level of this single headlight. But you know, that's neither here nor there. Let's go ahead and we're going to check out the Dual Star. All right, here we are up close and personal with the Dual Kingstar. Now this is the matte black option, and it comes with the black wheels here. So this is a really kind of cool, like murdered out looking bike. Almost all black except for the white eCells logo on the frame and on the stanchion of the fork. But overall, this is just a pretty cool looking bike. This has a lot of similarities with the 5-stars. It has the same 1500 watt Hintac motor with the steel and nylon hybrid gears that you know and love. This is a 26 by 4 inch fat tire. Differences are, this has a integrated frame battery, but still a 60 volt 20 amp hour battery. And the rear is a 60 volt 15 amp hour battery with a total of 35 amp hours of capacity. So you should be able to get yourself a considerable amount of range. It has the Kinder Crusade tires. And I don't know if it's mental or what, or if I haven't seen these tires for a while, but these ones feel like they're a thicker version for some reason. I could be wrong on that. I could totally be imagining that, but I'm telling you, it just feels like these are thicker tires. Guys, I don't think people realize, you know, everyone gets so caught up on just the numbers, power output, and all that stuff. You forget about the basic things such as the wheels. You want a nice pair of wheels on these bikes. These are big, heavy bikes. And you can bend these wheels very easily if you hit stuff. So having a strong set of wheels is very important. In the rear, we have an updated version of the D&M A08 RRC rear shock. You can see here, it's similar looking, but I believe this one's a little bit longer and the adjustments on it are different. I haven't had an extended amount of time on this to give you an updated opinion on it, but I really like the D&M A08 RC shock that comes on the previous models, and I'm guessing this is going to be more of the same and possibly even better. But really beefy rear linkage for the suspension. Bearings everywhere at the pivot points. Really nice looking suspension overall. Another thing I really like here has a built-in chainstay guard. So this has this nice rubber guard right there. And say goodbye to that crappy Shimano tourney derailleur. This bad boy has a Shimano Acera derailleur with a 7-speed trigger shifter. So no longer do you have that huge push button shifter. And it has this Shimano Mega Range cassette in the rear. Pro wheel, crankset here and some black Welgo pedals. So there's a lot of similar components on these bikes, but what's different is this has a 60 volt 40 amp controller, but it's not the KT controller that comes on the 5-star. This controller is made by a company called Landian, and well, it has very similar power output to the KT controller. This one employs a couple of unique tactics. This has a technology known as field winketing. What field winketing does is in the higher RPMs of the motors, it'll actually reduce the magnetic field on the motor to enable it to spin faster, hence giving you a faster top speed. We're gonna have to try that out. We're out on the road, but wanted to throw that in there. This is a pretty nice controller. It's potted, and the controller is mounted up against this plate right here. And there's vents in there, so it's designed to let airflow in, keep that controller nice and cool. So overall, it makes it a more clean aesthetic on the bike. It's mounted internally, keeps it safe from debris, and it keeps it nice and cool. And here is a close-up of the dual battery, how easy it is to set up the dual battery connection here. You just have this cable here, plugs into the frame, goes up here, and your dual battery goes on your rear rack. Has the same Tektro 4-piston hydraulic brakes front and rear with 203 millimeter rotors. Another thing unique to this bike, this is actually a torque sensor bike, but in the settings of the computer, you can swap between torque sensor mode or cadence mode. And we'll try more of that later when we're actually out riding it. Here you can see your integrated frame battery. And if you want to take the battery out, you stick your key in here and there's a switch right in the front. You can just pop the battery on in and out of the frame if you want to charge it somewhere else or whatever you want to do. With this included bad boy 5 amp charger, it charges both batteries simultaneously. This is 35 amp hours of capacity. Divide that by 5, you're going to have just about 7 hours to charge it. I'll give you a close up though. This is the matte black. It just has this really unique flat looking finish. You can see the welds everywhere, how beefy this rear suspension triangle is. This is just a really nice looking build on this bike. Now, look at this front fork. This is a KKE front fork, inverted stanchions on it, which means you see the stanchions here are on the bottom, where most e-bikes, they're up here on the top. Almost all the dirt bikes have the stanchions on the bottom, are inverted forks like this. Check out the fender mount on this. So there's 2 points of mounting with 4 bolts total, and it mounts it directly to the fork. This thing is not going anywhere. It's a really solid fender mount. Top of the stanchion, you have your compression adjustments. And at the bottom, you have your rebound adjustment. It has a through axle here, and it has the pinch bolts. This is like motorcycle style, where it has your axle here, and then you have your pinch bolts to tighten down. So that way, if your axle comes loose, the pinch bolts still hold it in place. I'm going to tell you more about this fork while we're out there riding, but just looking at it, you can just tell this thing is like the real deal. And that's one of the things I'm really liking about the way this industry is going, is that we're starting to see some like meaningful upgrades to these bikes. Another thing I really like about this bike is check out this seat. This is one of the few bikes I've had where it comes with a really nice, cushy, comfortable seat. And here's your rear rack with a rated weight capacity of 50 kilograms, which is about 110 pounds. So this is a pretty decent weight capacity on this rack. And another nice thing, this bike has a very similar mount like that in the rear. This is called the no drop dropout. You can see here, axle tightens in, and there's also pinch bolts holding this axle into place. So you ride around, you can actually undo this bolt here and still ride the bike without the axle coming out. Don't recommend doing that, but that's just another nice safety feature that this bike has that other bikes don't. You can just see when you're looking around at the different components of this bike, you can just tell this is just a higher quality than the initial 5-star. Nothing wrong with the initial 5-star, but this is just starting to look more like the traditional, specialized Trek bikes and stuff. You just glance at this bike and you're like, wow, that looks like a really nice, well-built bike. And you know what? It is. The fit and finish is top-notch, second to none. Definitely the best built bike I've seen from E-Cells so far. Okay, over here to the cockpit. Grips here. And then these are the type that you can twist if you try really hard. This bike is equipped with turn signals, left or right. And there's a turn signal indicator on the front, as well as the rear. This also has hazard lights, which will flash all your turn indicators, just like it would in a car. And it has this dual headlight selector switch here, but this one confused me a little bit because if you turn it on the on position, the high position, the light turns on. However, the low position doesn't do anything. To turn on the low beam, you hold the plus button just like you would on most e-bikes to turn on and off the headlight. And it turns that on, and then you can still toggle the high switch as well. So with both lights on, I anticipate this is going to be a very bright, nice looking headlight. Over here is your your pedal assist selector switch and your power switch. Play in the middle, obviously, your 7-speed trigger shifter, half twist throttle. To turn on this bike, you're going to hold down the power button you see here. Press it for a couple seconds. It will turn on your bike. The cool E-Cells logo, E-Cells. And you notice here, this is a different display. Now this kind of looks more like a display you'd see in a car. It's got your speedometer here on the left and has your power output here on the right. What's another neat little feature is this has dual battery gauges here. This is the first e-bike I saw that has a clock. Gives you all your nice information here. And by default, this bike has 9 levels of pedal assist. Not 3, not 5, not 7, but a staggering 9. But guys, if 9's too much for you, you can turn that down as well. To go into the advanced features of this bike, you double tap the M button here, and that brings you into the menu setting here. It gives you your basic stuff, language, system, brightness, auto off, all these stuff. I didn't make too many changes on here, but I'll show you what I deem to be important here. So I changed it from system. By default, it comes from metric. You want to put that to imperial. You can set your clock here. Here's where you can change your assist levels. By default, this comes with a 27.5 inch. I think I'm going to put it to 28, but we're going to have to see out there on the trail if that's accurate or not. So here on the bottom, here in the second menu with the little bike, you can have work mode. Class 2 is going to be how it comes to ship to you. You have Class 3, which is going to be no throttle, because actually Class 3 is no throttle. I didn't know that until recently with this California law, but it'll let you pedal up to 28. Class 1, which is just 20 mile an hour pedal assist only. And what you're going to notice is unlimited mode is missing, and that's because unlimited mode is here under advanced settings password. So you go to advanced settings password. Your advanced setting password is 8227, and then it'll give you a speed limit. You want to crank your speed limit all the way up to the maximum. I mean, if you want it there. I put mine to 61.4, go back, unlimited. So this is going to say unlimited mode. So this is basically saying you want to run in unlimited mode on or off. So the thing is, if you put this on, and then you change it back to Class 2 in the other menu, it's going to put you back in the Class 2, and you're going to have to go back in here to unlock unlimited. So basically, put it here on unlimited once and set it, and you forget it. Unless you want to go back and forth between Class 2 and unlimited. I don't know why you'd want to, but hey, to each their own, right? And here you have assist mode. Now, assist mode gives you speed or torque mode, and the torque mode is supposed to be the torque sensor. Speed mode is as soon as it starts noticing the cranks are moving, it's going to be like a typical cadence sensor. Exit, and then this is how I plan on riding the bike. For reference, this is what a 6'2" rider looks like. I feel like it's a nice, comfortable ride for me. This is with the seat at all the way at minimum insertion. Sounds weird saying minimum insertion, doesn't it? Now we've gone over all the specs and features. What do you say we do the fun part and take this bad boy for a ride? And I have quite the ride planned for it. Come on, guys, let's get going. All right, guys, we were out and about on the dual Kingstar. The first thing I want to point out is normally I do the pedal assist settings first, but you know, we're going to need a bit of room for that. I do want to point out is this front fork really shines when you go over obstacles like curbs, where it just rolls right over that. Where like the RST fork, you're going to use up all your travel and you're going to end up hearing a nice big clunk when you do that. I really like these longer travel forks because it can eat up bigger bumps without lifting the front of the bike up because it stays within the suspension. So it really makes these things just feel like monster trucks. But when you just look at the thickness of this fork, this is just really solid. Look at the crowns here. These are just really solid pieces of metal. This thing is not going anywhere. I think upgrading to the dual battery package, whether you're worried about the range or not, is almost a must just so you get this bigger fork. This thing is nice. So it's kind of nice when you have like 9 levels of pedal assist. You can kind of fine tune exactly how fast you want to go, and it really comes in handy when you're riding with groups because you can tune your pedal assist down to your slowest rider in the group, so you're not constantly having to like speed up and slow down. We are now on the planks of doom. Let's see if the Kingstar, dual Kingstar, is up for the challenge. Something came through here and just tore out all these bushes. I don't know what it was, but it was like a solid wall, but now you can see a lot of the stuff has died. It's not quite as imposing as it used to be, but nevertheless, the danger still persists, fellas. Last thing you want to do is go falling off your bike in here, taking a Nice tumble through these blackberry bushes or into the water in some areas, depending on where you're at. Oh yeah, this thing feels nice and stable. Not gonna want to do any road courses on this bike. Ooh. We're doing it. We are almost back on solid ground, completing the planks of doom on the Kingstar. Oh yeah, we did it. I did notice the steering in a couple sections there. I mean, it's still definitely doable, but it's you notice the way this bike is set up. This is set up for like a cruiser bike more so than a zipping around style bike. Here, you look like riding around. This is a nice, comfortable riding situation for me. I'm 6'2". I think if you're vertically challenged, you'd probably be better off sticking with the dual Stepstar or the Stepstar. But for bigger riders, yeah, you're gonna feel right at home on the Kingstar. This is nice. Just cruising right around, fellas. This is crazy. The sensor on this bike is extremely responsive. The slightest amount of input, it just starts going. So it's really nice. You don't have to wait for a couple rotations or anything, but when you have it on the higher power levels, it can feel like it wants to buck you off a little bit. Which leads me to, you know what, let's switch it over to torque mode and see how that goes. Now I have it set over to torque sensor mode. Oh yeah, I'm definitely noticing it's not as jerky now. So before, if I was just moving my legs a little bit forward, it would start to kind of just buck forward, but no, I'm noticing it for sure. Yeah, now it's a smoother, definitely feels smoother, and you give it some power and it wants to get up and go. So yeah, that's nice. I think I'm gonna leave it in torque sensor mode because it's almost too sensitive on cadence mode. I think it's just picking up the signal. It's picking up the signal whenever the thing picks up just a little bit of input and it just, wow, it gives you power. This mode, it's almost like there's a buffer there before it just unloads all the power on you, unleashes the beast. So yeah, this bike's nice. It gives you both the option for a torque or cadence system. You have really nice suspension. This thing is big, a monster truck. You can just go through any obstacle you want. Feels nice and stable. So far, I'm really, really liking this bike. Time to do a top speed test here and our acceleration run. This bike actually has a soft start in it that you cannot tune out. So this is probably not going to set any records in acceleration, but once it gets going, it gets going. Got my draggy set and we're off. Nice slow start. So we're putting out 2,600 watts. What I notice about this controller is it'll stay at 2,600 watts for a while, where the KT controller will do about 2,400 and then taper off. This just keeps going. So we are now at 33 miles an hour, 34, 35, 37, 38. Come on, field weakening. We're sticking right about 38.5. Let's see if that adds up with my draggy. And we're done with the run. Okay, looks like we got a 0 to 20, 6.79, guys. That's not the fastest, but keep in mind, that's because this has a soft start on it. Once it gets going, this thing gets cranking along pretty good. We got 37.86 mile per hour top speed. So I'm a 245-pound rider with my gear. I feel like that's pretty good. I could easily get this thing pedaling up to 40 if I wanted to, but this is a throttle-only test. Anyways, guys, there's you have it. This bike's pretty quick, especially once it gets going. I want to point out here, I'm in pedal assist 9, and it's nice with the torque sensor mode because you can pull off the line relatively smooth. With the speed mode, it's just going to start, lunging. It's, well, here's your 2,600 watts immediately. So it's really nice when you have it set to torque sensor mode. Guys, I'm going to set this to torque sensor mode. I'm not putting it back. I'm really liking this. Because right now, I'm in pedal assist 9. I'm not pedaling very hard, and I'm only pulling about 300-400 watts. So I have a feeling this bike is going to get massive range with torque sensor mode enabled. And one of these days, guys, when I have a full day ahead of me, I might take this thing out for a range test, but I have a feeling that's going to be a very long ride. We're not always going to have the luxury of riding around on nice trails. We're going to be riding our bikes on the street as well. And you know what? Let's see if this has any trouble keeping up with traffic. Guys, I'm in pedal assist 9 right now, and it's kind of comical how fast this bike feels. You just start giving it the pedals and it's going. We're hauling butt. You know, this thing is really quick. So yeah, this bike's gonna have absolutely no problem keeping up with traffic. You know, typically on the other style cadence sensor bikes, I almost never use the highest pedal assist modes unless I'm going up a hill, because, you know, from a dead stop, you start pedaling, those things just kind of lunge all over the place. This bike is definitely different in this. I like this a lot. Really liking this torque sensor mode. I've ridden other bikes with torque sensors where you have to pedal almost like you're on a regular bike to get some power out of it, which kind of defeats the whole purpose. The tuning on this one is great. So I'm liking riding around in pedal assist 5, giving it a little bit of input in my legs if I want to speed up, but otherwise I can kind of just cruise. So the speed's going to be more limited to like how much you want to push into the pedals, but like on a cadence sensor bike, you can kind of just move your legs faster. There's not going to necessarily be more resistance. You just move your legs faster and it'll get going, you know. But with this, I like it. This feels much more natural. I talked to Dave Cleveland, the owner of E-Cells, and he specifically stated that the C5 setting, which is how strong the throttle basically is on the 5-star, he was not a fan that you were able to change that to 10. So he intentionally gives this bike a soft start. I don't personally mind as I'm not out drag racing in my bike, but the one downside I have seen is a lot of times on these bikes, it's easy to use the throttle to get going. You know, you have a red light or you have a break in traffic, you want to cross the road, and you just want to hit the throttle and get going. Unfortunately, on this bike, you hit the throttle, and it's not like you're immediately going. There's a little bit of a break there. So in instances where I need to like make fast decision making, I would prefer to have a more responsive throttle. You just plan accordingly when you're riding. Now we're off the boring old road. Now we're onto this nice bike trail. And something I wanted to point out, it's better if I show you from the side. This bike has a very slack front head tube angle. So if you see what I mean here, the forks come out more at an angle like this, as opposed to straight up and down. That can change a couple of the characteristics of riding. A steeper head tube angle, you know, closer to being more up and down, will change directions really fast, but it'll have less stability over bumps or high speeds. A slackened head tube angle is going to be extremely stable, but at the expense of not being able to make tight cornering or fast turns as well. But the benefit of this, pretty much any downhill bike, most mountain bikes will have a slacker head tube angle, because you can hit obstacles, you can go over branches, you can go over ruts, and it's not going to cause your front end to change directions. And what this means in e-bike terms, with all the talk of the town, is, does this bike get the wobble? Well, I have both batteries on. Let's go see if this bike wobble. Here we are, guys, no hands. This bike has zero wobble. Even trying to initiate a wobble, it won't do it. You see a wobble a second and it stops itself. So that's one benefit from having this slack head angle and these big tires and everything. This bike is extremely stable. When you're on this, and I like to call this bike the monster truck, a Cadillac of monster trucks, because it's a comfortable suspension, it's a smooth ride, but it's also a big bike that you can just go over all the obstacles you want. This is a big monster truck with nice, comfortable suspension. Now, don't get me wrong, guys. The base model bike comes with an RST front fork, with 75 or 80 millimeters of travel, and that is the first fork I've ridden on an e-bike, this style e-bike, that I actually deem to be, that's a decent fork. It's not the greatest, but it's not bad. A lot of bikes come with really low-end, crappy forks that only have a compression adjustment. You hit a bump, I've had them get stuck before. They're just not good at all. The RST is decent. However, this fork is really nice, especially for a bigger, heavier bike like this. I can't tell you how sturdy that feels, guys. You just have to see this for yourself. This fork is no joke. D&M rear shock is doing its job. One thing I did want to point out is this only has a 2-position selector switch for compression. I always run these full open on the compression, but the D&M A08 RC on the other bikes has 3 positions. And if you see here in the middle, this is where you can where you adjust your rebound. I actually didn't adjust the air pressure at all from the factory, and this is almost perfect for me. As you see, I'm almost using up the full entire travel. The one thing I did do is I slowed down the rebound on this, and now when I hit bumps, it's not wanting to push me back out of the saddle. You just hit stuff and it just absorbs it. This thing feels really nice, guys. I can't tell you enough about like how nice the suspension feels on this bike. I want to give you a perspective of something real fast. You know, I don't know if you guys are ever gone upstairs. I'm guessing most people probably haven't, but listen how quiet this thing goes up the stairs. Watch this. That is crazy, guys. Every time I do that on another bike, you just hear everything rattling around for obvious reasons, but this thing just goes right up it. That is crazy. And it's such a smooth feeling. Like, yeah, I bet you almost anyone could do this. Wow, that is cool. Definitely the quietest reaction I've had to a bike doing something like this before. Shocking how well it does on those stairs. And guys, no, I don't feel bad doing this because A, I'm testing it for you, and E-Cells had this frame independently tested up to 750 times to show its durability. So this frame is bad to the bone. I'm not worried about this at all. So on this bike, the path is wherever you want it to be. You see a trail, you just point the bike in that direction of the trail, and next thing you know, you're on it. No problem. This bike is just so smooth. And you hear, listen, this is a very quiet bike as well. I'm not hearing any rattles, no clunks, no grinding, nothing. This is just occasional noise of the suspension. Things hit the fenders. That's about it. This is a very quiet bike. It just feels so solid, very confidence inspiring. You could probably get yourself into some real trouble on this bike if you wanted to. Well, it's time for everybody's favorite part of the review, the brake test. Well, let's see how well these Tektro 4-piston hydraulic brakes work. These brakes feel very nice. I did notice I had to turn up the compression on the front end because there's so much travel on this, and you'll end up pushing all through that travel before the brakes in the front really start to grab. So overall, these brakes are great. I have these on multiple bikes. They're a nice, solid brake. But guys, you might want to turn up your compression to make sure you're not bottoming out your front fork under heavy braking. I forgot to mention, this bike has a horn. It's not very loud, but I feel like this is enough noise that, like, if you're riding on a trail, you don't want to call out, you hit this and then people will notice you're there and look back. So it's not the loudest horn, but it works. You know, it honestly kind of makes me sound like I'm, you know, having a heart attack. Oh, he's flatlining. And I was riding last night. I had my flashers on by accident. My friend was riding behind me and said they're actually very bright. So these turn indicators are actually somewhat useful. I probably won't end up using them, and I do notice there's no indicator on the display here. So you can be riding around with your flashers or turn this signal on and not know it at all. But it is nice if you're concerned with safety. It's nice to have them there. And that is another thing that the base model doesn't have. The base model does not have turn signals or the horn. All right, guys, it's time for the hill test. I don't think it's gonna be any surprise. This is gonna have no problem with this hill, and I'm gonna do it throttle only. Let's start here. I'm pedal assist 9, dead stop. Nice slow start, and we're headed up the hill. I don't know the grade of this hill, guys, because I am not a dork. Yeah, 2,600 watts, yeah, that's no problem. 21 miles an hour, 19, we're slowing down, but it's still no problem at all. Yeah, this is breeze. This is probably, out of all the bikes I've ridden up this hill, this one's probably had the easiest time. 15, 14. Yeah, absolutely no problem. This thing has a lot of power. This bike feels right at home on trails like this. The nice thing about electric stuff is you can ride amongst the pedestrians here and not feel like you're disturbing the peace, you know? So you're at one with nature, guys, on your electric bicycle, your E-Cells dual Kingstar. Almost forgot to mention the shifter on this bike. Although you're probably not going to need to shift gears incredibly often, this is nice and solid, firm feeling. And if you push hard enough, you can downshift 2 gears at once and you upshift once at a time. So pretty standard gear selector, whatever. It feels nice and quality, and the shifts feel firm, letting you know that you've indeed shift gear. All right, guys, since this had such an easy time with the regular hill climb, we're gonna do the advanced hill climb test. Now, only the strongest of the strong bikes will make it up this hill. And let's go. And pedal assist 9, off to a very easy start so far, but the steep climbing hasn't started yet. Here we are, now we're into the thick of it. We're doing it. I'm putting in some input for my legs. We're getting it done. Haven't stopped yet. Woo! 1,800 watts, 2,000 watts. And we did it. Ladies and gentlemen, That stretch of trail is extremely steep. What fun is it going up the hill if you're not going to go back down, right? This is very steep. Let's see how the cool Kingstar handles it. Oh yeah. We are all in 30, 37. Woo! That was moving. This thing feels so stable, it's crazy. I've ridden that on bikes that are less capable, and let's say it's you might have to change your underwear afterwards. Not the case on this bike. Well, no better place to end the video than right here, because we're at King of the Hill with the Kingstar. So this bike is absolutely bad to the bone. This is my favorite e-cells bike that I've tested so far. However, I'm 6'2". If you're a smaller rider, I would still recommend going with the Stepstar, because with the 24-inch wheels and step 2 frame, you're gonna have a significantly easier time getting on and off that bike. But that being said, some things I really love about this bike. Overall, the build quality is top notch. This is the best build quality I've seen out of an e-cells product. The front fork on this bike is very nice. You're getting into like dirt bike levels of performance with this thing. Very plush, very robust, a nice match for a bike of this weight and size. The rear shock on this is going to be more of what you loved about the A08 RC. Very nice rear shock. The controller, the torque system on this bike is my favorite power delivery system out of any bike I've tried so far. You don't get the jerkiness that you do with a lot of cadence systems, especially with higher powered bikes. It's nice and smooth, and I feel like it's going to be more efficient and giving you more range if you ride it for longer rides. And this seat right here is probably my favorite stock seat that I've tried out of any bike. Some things I'm not a big fan of. This is a very big bike. This is a big and heavy bike. So like I said earlier, if you're a smaller rider, you're probably not going to want to choose this one, because this is going to be hard for you to get on and off. I'd go with the Stepstar. But overall, guys, this is a very, very nice bike. Some nice upgrades over the 5-star, and you really can't go wrong. So if you're interested in ordering one of these, you can use the link in the description of this video. Use coupon code CHIT100 to save yourself $100 off that order. And as always, there's no tax or shipping added to that price. But anyways, guys, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, share, subscribe, and we'll catch you in the next one. Peace.